wellness check. Today, we are talking about how to ride the wave of an impulse. And this is something I'm sure we all can relate to when we've had an impulse to do something that maybe down the road we can look back and say, I shouldn't have done that. And I'm going to teach you a couple skills to use in order to recognize that an impulse is there, what to do about it. Is it in your best interest to act on that thought or that impulse, or should we put something else in its place and save you potential heartbreak or just engaging in a behavior or a choice that you know isn't in your best interest? You can learn how to ride this wave with any situation on the spectrum of life, whether it's a small little thing or a very big life decision. And typically, this comes in handy when we are faced with the pattern of making the same decision over and over again, knowing that we don't feel any better on the other side. Here are some examples where you might want to learn how to ride the wave. It might be the thought or the impulse of texting an ex, someone that you've broken up with and you need to stay away from. But every now and then you get caught up in the feelings and you just want to reach out and text. Here's another reason why we might need to ride the wave. If it has anything to do with your relationship with food, maybe you're working through disordered eating. Maybe you are really challenging yourself. You're working with a therapist. Reading all of the self-help books on relationship with food. Maybe it's binge eating disorder. Maybe it's restricting. Whatever that is, we might need to learn how to ride the wave so that you can nourish your body the way that it needs to be nourished despite the feelings or impulses that you have. Maybe it's something like addiction. Maybe we're talking about substance use or the use of alcohol. You can start to see there are so many opportunities to use this. So maybe think of your own individual life, the impulses that you have. Do you normally follow through with them, and have they been kind to you in the end? Or do we need to talk about maybe breaking that habit? And how do we do that? So I'm going to be pulling skills from something called ACT, Acceptance and Commitment Therapy. There are lots of workbooks and books out there on ACT. It's very helpful, and it's all about riding the wave, understanding what your triggers are, your impulses are, and putting enough time and space in between the thought and the behavior to make a more well-rounded choice for you. So take a moment and just think about how you could use this. Is it with your children? Is it with your boss? Is it with maybe not anybody else in particular, just battling your own day-to-day things? All right, so pick something big or small. And the first thing we need to do anytime we are talking about behavior change, the first thing that we need to do is bring it into our awareness. That's always the first step. So often we go through our lives following the impulses, doing the things, and then wondering, how did we get here? Why are we in this mood? Okay, so if we bring it into our awareness, it sounds something like this. I really want to email my boss. And I want to say some unkind things to him or her because they have been really passive aggressive with me, or I didn't get that promotion, and I need to give him a piece of my mind. Okay, wait. Let's take a look. Let's bring that into your awareness and say, okay, this is what I want to do. Then we ask ourselves, what could happen here, right? Is this an emotionally driven decision? And if it is, it's likely that we really need to take a beat, take a moment, and possibly pivot over into another decision, another choice, and not follow through just because we think it in that moment. And I feel like that's where most of us get caught up, is we have a really strong thought, we have a really strong urge or really big feelings around this, and we don't know what to do with it other than to do the thing to alleviate all of the feelings and thoughts. That's where we get into trouble. So, number one, bring it into your awareness. Number 2, pause. Really take a moment. Is this an emotional thing? If it is, likely don't engage in the thing. Walk away from the computer. Go outside for a little walk. Put your phone down. Whatever the situation might be, take a minute and just really sort through what the repercussions could be. Have you been down this road before? How did that turn out? And long term, where is this going to put you? That's a piece of this puzzle that a lot of us don't look at either, is we just want to do it so badly in that moment that we don't even consider what this is going to look like long term. Or are we making the same decision and behavior over and over again to the point where we are not in a good place in life because of it? So that's step 2, pause. Here is where ACT really comes in handy, and I encourage you to find a workbook or just a book about educating yourself on how to ride this wave. That's what it's called, riding the wave. So the wave is, we have the impulse, we have the thought, I really, really, really want to do it. And what we're trying to do is keep our head above water through this experience, thus riding the wave and not letting it crash over us. So when it comes to the fork in the road, do I do the thing that I really want to do, that I feel like I need to do in this moment, or can I try something else? This is sticky because a lot of times what we want to do is in our brain and we want to do it. There's not a lot of interest in trying something else. That sounds boring. That sounds difficult. That sounds not what we want to do in the moment. So it's really important in this step, in this third step, when you're at the fork in the road and you're even considering trying something else, you have to pick something that falls in line with your morals and values. I tell my clients all the time, you have to use different coping skills for different feelings, for different emotions, and for different triggers. Knitting a scarf might be very helpful if you're sad, but knitting a scarf probably will not be helpful if you are angry and you need to express anger. So at this fork in the road, we've taken a minute, we brought it into our awareness, and now we're saying, what do I need to do with this impulse? A, why am I having it to begin with? What triggered me to even have this thought, this need to do something almost compulsively? And what can I do that's not that does actually fall in line with my morals and beliefs? So here's an example from the emailing the boss, right? So we're looking long term. We're saying this probably wouldn't be good for my status of employment. I don't need to get on my boss's bad side. So what can I do? What are my morals and beliefs around communicating something that has upset me? Well, all right. So we're not going to email when we're really emotional, because we're more likely to use nasty words and say things we might not mean, or hurt someone that we don't really want to hurt just because we're in the emotional mindset. But what I can do is I can take a moment. If I feel bad tomorrow, maybe I can talk to my boss. Maybe I can email him from a non-emotional state and say, look, let's just meet up next Tuesday on your lunch break. I have a couple things I want to go over. And you rehearse in a really respectful, kind way what you want to say. You're practicing communication in a productive way, not a hurtful way, right? So that's just one example. If we are talking about relationship with food and you're really battling, I really want to restrict here, or I really am going to binge, I just know it, or I'm going to stop at the liquor store on my way home, I just know it, we're going to have a night of it. Bring it into your awareness. Pause and say, I know that this is not going to put me where I want to be tomorrow. It's not going to make me feel good. I know this is an emotional feeling. It's an emotional response, an impulse. Let me take a moment. What can I do that is in alignment with my morals and values that would make me feel more purposeful, more grounded, more connected? And instead of following through on that impulse, you go do that activity. You're riding the wave in that moment when you make those choices. And it's very important to make a good choice, one that can either equal or outweigh the impulse of the destructive thing, right? Remember, knitting a scarf might not help with anger. Knitting a scarf is down here, anger is up here. So if we are restricting and we're like, I really am not going to fulfill my meal plan today, that's my urge, that's way up here. That feeling is way high. So we got to pick something according to our morals and values that is up high too, to give our minds buy-in. If we pick something that's only like mildly feel good, the chance of us taking the fork in the road and choosing that alternative activity is going to be lower. So that's something therapists do, is we help our clients bring awareness into the impulse that we have, teach them it's okay, it's just a thought, it's just a feeling, we do not have to act on it. Let's just understand it and become curious about it. We don't need to judge it or become critical or anything. What else could we do in that moment? Let's keep our heads above water. Let's put ourselves in a situation where at the end of the day, you can look back and say, I can't believe I did that. I can't believe that I made a choice. It was really hard in the moment. That put me in a better situation today and tomorrow and in long term. And that is what begins to feel really good. That's where we begin to build up our self-confidence, knowing that we can ride that wave, take a really intense thought or feeling, not act on it, but more importantly, put something in its place that's meaningful and valuable to you, to who you are, to who you want to become. That feels better than the impulse of doing something that probably soon after you complete the said behavior doesn't put you in a great spot. So if you want to know more about this, again, ACT, Acceptance and Commitment Therapy. It's a wonderful tool to have, and you can use it for anything. Teach it to your children, teach it to your neighbors. The more that know, the better. If you have any questions on how to practice ACT, riding the wave, or what it means to even acknowledge what your impulses are, let me know. I'm more than happy to talk with you about it. And until then, thank you for checking in with your wellness. I'll see you soon.